Waiting for it to say that we are rocking and we are ready to go. Hey guys, how you going today on BKRsport? We are here at the big game, and the big game obviously is the NRL Grand Finale. Look, this is going to be a super interesting game to talk about here, guys. We're going to be going through the team lists, obviously, going through previous history, and also just giving our opinion on what could be happening this Sunday night in my beliefs. Obviously, this is just my personal opinion. We'll get to the chat afterwards, and we'll see what you guys are saying. For people who are tuning into this after the video has already gone live, then definitely, obviously, know that there will be timestamps on the video for when we spoke about certain things. But yeah, look, obviously today we're going to be going through the grand final, which is the Penrith Panthers versus the Parramatta Eels, the Battle of the West, something that we have never seen before. The only one in recent memory with a similar kind of feel to it is obviously that Brisbane Broncos versus North Queensland Cowboys game in 2015 that was absolutely hectic between the Cowboys and Broncos at Accor Stadium. We all know that grand final where Jonathan Thurston kicked the field goal. Crazy last few minutes there. And this one has a similar feel to it because obviously they are local rivals. Now this is actually a lot more local than that one is, however, because obviously with the Broncos game versus the Cowboys, they are separated by basically the state of Queensland. With Parramatta and Penrith, they're not far away from each other. Just a short drive between the two. They're, out far west there in Sydney, and they have a lot of dislike towards each other. I don't think that obviously this is the biggest rival for the Eels when you think about it overall. It is a big rival because of the localness about it, but obviously Parramatta have Manly and also the Bulldogs that actually normally are a bit more animosity driven than the Panthers. But then again, if they lose this game, it might be, obviously right now, Parramatta fans are probably thinking this is their biggest rivals. But if you go back over the years, you'd probably say no. I guess that's just because both these teams in the recent history too haven't exactly been great until the last 5 or so years. But yeah, Panthers obviously going for their back-to-back grand finals. And obviously we've got Parramatta in their first grand final since 2009. But if they win this, it'd be their first grand final win since before I was born, 36 years ago, 1986. Absolutely crazy to think about the distance between that. So obviously, like I said, guys, we're going to be going through the two team lineups here, the history between them, give my opinion, and then we're going to be jumping over to the chat and then answering a few of your questions here. So hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new around here. I will be vlogging this week's game with Entertain House. We're actually in the Parramatta Eels section this week. Obviously, I'm a Titans fan, so if you're a Panthers fan thinking, oh, look at this buddy Muppet going for the Eels, I'm just doing it for a bit of the vlog, man. It's not really a problem for me who wins this game, but I'll give you my honest opinion in regards to what happens, but I will be sitting with the Parramatta Squirrels section this weekend. But alrighty, let's get into it. So, Panthers were $1.37 favourites, Eels $3.10. I think that it is fair. I think those odds are pretty fair for me. Now, if you go back to this season, obviously Parramatta beat them both times in the regular season, but when it came to the crunch, the Panthers obviously did beat them. Now, that scoreline was not reflective of that game, however. A lot of people look at that game and they say, oh, the Panthers beat them really easily. No, they didn't. The Eels were actually leading 8-7 with about 20 minutes to go in that game, and then Panthers scored a try, and then Mitchell Moses went off. As soon as that try and Moses going off happened, it really did obviously deject that team as a whole, and that was where the Panthers kind of ran away with it. That was also in Penrith as well, a place that they just never usually lose. I understand they lost to Parramatta early this season at Penrith, but overall, everything went against the Eels in that game in regards to just the way that Panthers were able to take control of it late on. Now, we're going to get into a little bit more later on about how Panthers can change a game like that, change a game in the space of 3 minutes. You can ask the Rabbitohs fans what they think about that one because that's what happened on the weekend against them. But yeah, look, I think the $1.37 favouritism is probably fair considering how they've gotten to this stage. They are the minor premiers. They are the current premiers from last year as well. So yeah, I don't have any kind of... I guess there's not really too much push and shove with that, with those odds there. But I do think $3.10 is still decent enough value. I think, yeah, you may as well at that price because it is a grand final. You can't get to the grand final and be a bad team overall. So, yeah, I think that it's still a decent enough price to be getting on there. If, oh, sorry, I didn't even switch it over yet. I have actually switched it over. Let's go over here to this part. Sorry, I forgot to actually switch it over to the... live viewing here. Entertain House is here with the $3 redo donation. Get around, you big fella. Thank you very much, man. Let's just switch this over this side. There we go, lads. Now we're over. That's all right. I was showing you the odds and I didn't even know that you couldn't see them. But yeah, all right, let's get into the two-team lineups here. So, Chris Smith, Jermaine Hopgood, Matty Eisenhuth, and Sunda Taruva are the ones in, and there are no outs here for the Panthers, so obviously a full-strength side here. You got Dylan Edwards in the fullback, who is just an absolutely surreal player, man. Just an absolutely surreal player. I think people this year have really started to notice him a lot more because of so many people saying how underrated he is. Now, obviously, people are starting to talk about, on a more casual level, how good Dylan Edwards actually is. He's a fantastic player, and obviously, when we get to the opposition fullback of Clinton Gutherson, they're very similar, but personally, Edwards just does so much. Gutho's had a great final series, but we'll get into him in a little bit. Dylan Edwards is just so consistent, so powerful with his runs, and really sets a platform from the back from those, obviously, kicks that the opposition team does make. You go to the wings, obviously, in Charlie Staines and Brian To'o. Charlie Staines is a bit of a worry for me. Obviously, Taylor May is normally the guy that they do have there. He's not there. I think he had a hamstring injury that he hasn't come back from. A little bit of karma, I guess, to what happened in the fact that he was able to play week 1. But overall, I'm not there wishing an injury on a player. I never want to see that. I'd prefer Taylor May to be playing here today because it means that obviously we're seeing the best of the best up against each other. I never want to see injuries like that for that purpose, and also just because I'm a human being and not a dickhead. But yeah, Brian To'o. We saw what he did against the Rabbitohs. Just an incredible try there, man. Incredible try. He doesn't have much pace about him, obviously. Cody Walker did catch him there. And I think the other two guys would have caught him too. But the physicality and the powerfulness of a small bloke in Brian To'o was just fantastic to put Cody Walker onto his backside and then the other two players tripping over him in the process as well. It was incredible. Changed the game too. That was the changer right there with Brian To'o scoring. I honestly think that, when we were streaming on the weekend, I said that was game over there because they were down 12-0 with 3 minutes to go. We'll get into that later. But the point of the matter is that try from him changed the game, and it was incredible there right on the halftime siren. Isaac Talgo and Stephen Crichton there in the centres. I think that's a good centre pairing there, man. I don't think that it's the best centre pairing in the entire country, but I think they're a great centre pairing. Stephen Crichton, obviously Samoa representative. Didn't have a great New South Wales debut this season, but overall, very good on the NRL level. And Isaac Targo, young bloke, making his name. Love to see it. Going to the halves here, you all know it. Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary. These guys, obviously, are just fantastic. And I'm actually really annoyed recently that even though Jerome Luai, for me, on the field is just a moron. Like, I really don't like the way that he plays in regards to, I guess, the way his personality is in the field. I think he's such an underrated player, though, now, because you guys, not necessarily you individually who's watching, but a lot of the people now are saying because they don't like him, he's now not a good player. He is now underrated because of that. He is a really good player, man, and there's a reason why the Panthers win with him there. I know that Cleary is a big part of that, and I understand being partnered with the best player in the game right now is a huge part of that. But you cannot denigrate Jerome Luai just because you think he's a bit of a dickhead, which, although is okay, you are allowed and entitled to feel like he is just a bit of a muppet when it comes to the on-field shenanigans and the fact that he's a Queensland fan who plays in New South Wales. But Jerome Luai is really, really enigmatic, and it's just so hard to see what he's going to do next. He's a really good player, so don't denigrate him based on the fact you just think he's a muppet. And then you get Nathan Cleary, who is obviously just fantastic. Best player in the game right now. His high bombs are going to be just really, really difficult for anybody, let alone, Clint Gutherson at the back there. Obviously, he's going to be able to pepper Wonga Blake like he did in that first game there. The wingers are a bit susceptible to the high bomb. Maybe Micah Sivo might be better at it, but with that being said, watch Cleary's bombs here because he killed them with the bombs in that first game of the final series. Now we obviously go to the front row forwards and we've got Moses Leota and James Fisher-Harris. These guys, Fisher-Harris, not necessarily had the greatest of seasons individually, but overall, if you look through each and every play individually in this Panthers team, they actually haven't had individually the greatest seasons, but yet they're in the grand final and they're still the best team in regards to the competition at the moment. So James Fisher-Harris, although he's been a little bit more down in regards to what you see, he is still one of the biggest and toughest guys in the league right now, and it's scary to go up against him. And Moses Leota doesn't get the credit that he deserves. He's such a hard ball runner, and I look forward to seeing what he can do this weekend. Apisai Kotosau, great to see him starting the number 9. I don't guarantee that happens because obviously, for some reason, they always put Apisai Kotosau starting 9, and then by game time, it's Mitch Kenny in there. So hopefully we see that, but they're going to actually lose a lot without Apisai Kotosau next year. I don't really necessarily rate a lot of Mitch Kenny, but this is going to be the last game for Apisai Kotosau regardless here, because obviously he is going to the West Tigers. Big loss for them. Really, really big loss for them next year, because I don't really see a ready replacement unless they're going to the younger teams, which obviously are doing well right now. They've won the SG Ball and New South Wales Cup, but overall, I think he's a huge loss. Viliami Kikau and Liam Martin in the back row. Really good back row. Viliami Kikau, we all know what he can do. This is also his last game for the club as he's going to the Bulldogs next year. And Liam Martin hasn't really had a great year. And I don't think he's actually individually been too fantastic at all. However, we all know what he can do. And it just comes down to him being able to muster it up this time round and actually get something going for this game individually, because I just haven't really seen what I called super underrated last year. I haven't really been liking a great deal of his game this year. So hopefully in a grand final he stands up. Obviously he plays in New South Wales. Be good to see him get back to what we know he can do. And Isaiah Yeo as well. I've got Cameron Murray as the best lock in the game. Before this season started, I had Isaiah Yeo, and I still thought he was underrated. Now, I think everyone rates him, but overall, there hasn't been the same kind of pass distribution that normally we would see from Yeo. I think that it's been a collective effort rather than being an individual effort with Isaiah Yeo. So we all know what he can do, and I definitely guarantee you that he's going to be one to watch in this game. He is a Clive Churchill chance there. Obviously, you've got Nathan Cleary, you've got Edwards, you've got, some people say Brian To'o. You're never going to probably see a winger get it. If he gets it, congratulations, but that means he's had an outstanding game. But Isaiah Yeo is definitely a really great shout for it as well, with what he can produce. On the bench there, Mitch Kenny, Scott Sorensen, Spencer Leniu, and Jamin Salmon. Love Spencer Leniu, man. I think he's a tough ball runner, doesn't give a shit when he just runs that ball as hard as he possibly can. Great addition off the bench. I wouldn't be starting him. I've said this many times on my streams. I don't start Spencer Leniu if I'm the coach there. I'd put him on the interchange, and I think that's his best position there. And I love what he provides when he comes off the bench into the team. Really, really tough ball runner. Obviously, it was lucky that he actually gets to play this game based on the concussion that he faced from old mate Tane Milne, who I've already gone off at many a time now. I just really look forward to seeing Spencer Leniu. And I love that bench. Scott Sorensen, we saw him have an outstanding game really early in this season. Hasn't really been able to get to those numbers lately. But Scott Sorensen, Spencer Leniu are the two guys I'll look at there. Jamin Salmon's a bit of an interesting one overall. And obviously, we all know that Mitch Kenny is going to be the guy that they go with there in the duo hooker role with Apisa Coruscant. But Jamin Salmon's a bit of an interesting one. I'm not necessarily the biggest believer in Salmon overall, but I guess I'm not the coach of the Panthers, so what do I know? Sean O'Sullivan, Matty Eisenhuth, Jermaine Hopgood, Sunya Turuva, and Chris Smith is the reserves there. I wouldn't even have maybe minded Matty Eisenhuth there, to be completely honest with you. But overall, very good team, man, the Panthers. Very good team. We know that. There's no doubting that. And there's a reason why they are favourites. Now, let's move over now to the Parramatta Squeals. And we go to Kai Rodwell, Nathan Brown, Offa Higby, Ogden, and Tom Opacek going out for the team. Going in for the team and no one going out. You go to the fullback now. Clint Gutherson is the fullback. Now, this has been my player of the final series in any team. I think that Clint Gutherson has been just simply superb in regards to defense, in regards to offense. Dazan says he's not a former player. I'm not a former player. What do I know? But Gutho has just been such an incredible player in regards to this Eels team, and I have my doubts about him very frequently. Not necessarily can he produce what we've seen in this final series. However, what we've seen in the final series has been top-notch. I haven't seen him put too much of a step wrong for me. So, yeah, look, I think that Clint Gutherson is the one that I'm really looking forward to watching in this grand final if he can handle the pressure, because my biggest issue with Parramatta is the pressure. This game realistically means means more to Parramatta, which is a weird thing to say in a grand final. Panthers did win last year. Parramatta haven't won since 1986. That's a long time between drinks. So Panthers know what it feels like, and maybe the desperation might not be there in comparison. However, they have aspirations of making a dynasty here. So that's their aspirations and desperation. For Parramatta, it's more about bringing pride to Western Sydney in regards to Parramatta for the first time in most of our lives. I guarantee you, most people in the chat right now were not born or were not, old enough to kind of remember when Parramatta did go and win that premiership. So that's where I really see that desperation coming in for the Eels there. But they are known to choke it on the big stage. And they did already lose the Panthers, which is my worry. But let's keep going through this team lineup here. But like I said, Gutho, fantastic in his finals. Have my doubts in him overall. Could have a stinker. But I back him in for a good game here. Marcus Sivo, Dosso Vittiman, and Wonga Blake on the wings there. Obviously, Fiji and wing pairing. Fantastic players. Wonga Blake, obviously very susceptible on the high ball, though. Do really worry about that. But he can have some good defense at times. Can have some mares of defensive reads at times as well. And a couple of years back, he was the main man that everyone blamed at Parramatta. Now, obviously, people are happy for him to be there. However, he was a big reason as to why they lost that game to the Panthers in week 1. Marcus Sivo Definitely top 3 winger in the game for me, and on his day can be the number 1 winger in the game. Just comes down to him just consistently being on that field, and we haven't necessarily seen that an unbelievable amount in the last couple of years, but he's here right now. When he's on the field, he is, for me, top 2. And I could easily argue, I could make an argument for him alongside To'o as well. I could make an argument, but that's for another day. Will Penasini and Bailey Simonson there in the centres. Bit of a weak centre pairing. That's an issue for me. They're a bit of a weak centre pairing overall. I think Will Penasini has talent in him, and I'm not saying Bailey Simonson doesn't either, but I am nervous about that defensive side with Simonson and Wonga Blake. I am nervous with that one. Love Will Penasini and Micah Sivo as a collective, but I think Bailey Simonson and Wonga Blake do make me a little bit nervous there. But there's no doubting the talent they have. We saw what Simonson could do at the Raiders. Hasn't really necessarily looked a great deal up at the Eels, but they're in the grand final, and they've pretty much had this centre pairing for most of the season. So, unless I'm incorrect there, but I'm pretty certain they've basically had those centre pairing for most of the season. You go to the halves now, and this is where the game's won for Parramatta. Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses. I think that for the Panthers, there are more positions where the game can be won with, but with the Eels, it really solely will probably come down to one of these 2 guys, and specifically, they're 7. So Dylan Brown's in the 6, Mitchell Moses is in the 7. Mitchell Moses is the guy that needs to be definitive in his decision-making. I understand we gave him a pass for the game against the Cowboys, where he had a whole heap of stuff going off the field. I get that. I sympathise with that. But this is the grand final. You have got a large population of Parramatta relying on you. If Mitchell Moses goes down, the Eels go down. We saw it in week 1 of the finals when the Panthers then took it away when Moses went down. So he is one that has to be on. He cannot kick the ball out in the full twice. You make a mistake against this Panthers team, you are going to lose. Not you might lose, you're going to lose if you kick that ball out in the full twice, because they will make you pay. It is a really, really just strong Panthers team that do not let up, and especially physically speaking. And Mitchell Moses is going to be really under a lot of pressure, which is what a grand final is going to do. But I just get nervous for their kind of... This is why I keep saying Parramatta, though. You get nervous with the fact that they can be so, rocks and diamonds, man. They can be so rocks and diamonds. And Moses was probably the worst player on the field for the Eels, and even nearly in the game for that Cowboys-Eels game, but they still got the job done, which was great to see. Dylan Brown, obviously, he's probably my 5'8" of the year in the competition. I think he's had a really good bounce-back year for me. He's been rocks and diamonds before as well, but overall, Dylan Brown has had a really good individual year that has helped Parramatta to get to this stage, and we all know how good he was at the beginning part of the year, through till about... maybe like round 15, 16, and then maybe around 12, 13, and then kind of petered out for a little bit, but has now come back to just being that really dominant 5'8". Still not probably the best player on the field at the moment, but still we know what he can do based on what we saw at the beginning part of the season. If he has a game like that, geez, I tell you what, it's going to be just an absolute baller of a game. You go to the front row forwards now in Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo. I would argue that it's so difficult. It's really difficult to compare these forwards from the Panthers to the Eels, because Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paulo are 2 of the best front rowers in the game. Campbell-Gillard will be playing for Fiji. Junior Paulo, I'm not too sure. But Fisher Harris and Moses Leota, they're really kind of a wash, really. I'd still probably lean with Leota and Fisher Harris. However, those 2 Eels forwards, I'd be very happy to say that they could easily best those 2 guys on their given day, especially with simply... Look at Campbell-Gillard's game against the Cowboys. That was just incredible. Scored 2 tries, I believe it was. 2 tries with the big fella, 2 meat pies. That is incredible. You don't usually look for that from a front rower, let alone a guy like Regan Campbell-Gillard, who isn't really a try-scoring forward. He scored 2. Scored 2, which was great to see. I think it was Regan Campbell-Gillard. I hope it is. I'm pretty certain it was. Number 9 there, it is Reid Marnie. Obviously, his last game for the club. He'll be going to the Dogs next year. He is a... I would argue, without Ben Hunt, you could make an argument for him being the 3rd or the 4th best hooker in the game. He is a really good... I think maybe lacks a bit of IQ at times, but overall, the way that he moves the ball is just really niche for what he does, and I really like the little scoots that he does, and I also like his ball-playing ability. I think Reid Marnie is underrated. I think most people probably wouldn't have him in the top 5 because they don't really know what he does. But Bulldogs are getting a great player here. The Bulldogs are getting a great player here. And the Eels will miss him greatly. And this is why I'm saying to you guys, this is the Eels' last chance at the premiership for me with this playing group. They need to win this game this week. Back rowers now, Sean Lane and Isaiah Papali'i. Sean Lane has been the player of the season nearly for the Eels. What a season he's had. Fantastic game. I had him as my player of the match in that game against the Cowboys. Not only was he great defensively, but he was incredible with his offloads, which is a great thing Parramatta have, is their offloading game. And Sean Lane, a guy you would never normally think is the best player on the field, had such an incredible game. It was so good to see. He's the player of the game for me. And Isaiah Papali'i, this will also be his last game for the club, which is wild to say. Going to the Tigers, wants to go to the Warriors. We'll see how that one transpires. But when he's on, he's the best back row in the game. When he's on, he's the best back row in the game. Going now to the lock, which is Ryan Maddow. I definitely give that lock battle to Isaiah Yeo, but we'll go through our positional battles in a second. Ryan Madison off to the Dolphins next year as well. He's a fast ball runner from that lock and a really hard ball runner from that lock as well. He's got a bit more pace to him, I guess, than what you would see normally from those big boppers like a Cameron Murray or Isaiah Yeo. He's a guy who can really run it and also pass it. I love what Maddow does bring to the club. Interchange now, Nathan Brown comes in. I said Nathan Brown should have come in for Jake Arthur last week, but obviously, guess what? Jake Arthur's there this week. Nathan Brown, Jake Arthur, Oregon Kafusi, and Murata Niokore. Really interesting to me. Really interesting to me that Nathan Brown has come in there, and I just don't really know a great deal about Jake Arthur being there. But then again, that's, I guess, their 14 utility role. Bryce Cartwright's been dropped, which is fair enough, realistically. But Nathan Brown, Jake Arthur, Oregon Kafusi, and Murata Niokore. It's a fine bench. It's a fine bench there. The reserves, Bryce Cartwright, Makahesi Makatoa, Tom Opacek, Ofahiki Ogden, and Kai Rodwell will be the reserves. So, yeah, look, very strong team, obviously. They're in the grand final for a reason. I'm not going to say they're not a good team. But let's go through the player comparisons here. So if we go to the fullback role, actually before we do this, obviously hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you're new around here. We'll probably be going for another 5 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes, and then we'll be getting to you guys in the chat and seeing what you guys have to say about this game. But in regards to my opinion on the fullback role, I personally think that based on the finals, it's Gutho. But I personally think in regards to overall, I actually think Dylan Edwards. So make of that what you will. If you want to call that a wash, I'm happy to call that a wash. In regards to the wings, though, I still am going to go with the Eels. I'm going to go with Wonga Blake and Mike Sivo. I don't rate Charlie Staines. I really don't. I think he's a vulture in regards to tries on the back of their nice play. But I don't think individually he's that great of a winger. Brian To'o really pulls them up, but I'd probably lean with Sivo and Wonga Blake. You get to the centres, though, I'm taking the centres of the Panthers. Isaac Targo and Crichton, for me, beat out Panasini and Simonson, and I don't think there's a great deal of debate about that one in the centres. So it's really 50-50 in regards to... So I've got centres for Panthers, I've got the wingers for the Eels, and then it's a wash for the fullback. So overall... that's a really good backline comparison where both these teams feel like they could obviously get the job over the other. But then I'll clearly and utterly go with Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary, just because of Nathan Cleary realistically, and Jerome Luai on a similar level to Dylan Brown for sure, and also Mitchell Moses on another level too. Mitchell Moses, top 3 half in the game, absolutely. But Nathan Cleary, when you've got him on your team, you're always selecting those halves there. So I'm taking the Panthers on that one. Go to the front rowers. It's kind of a wash. I personally lean with the Panthers, but it is kind of a wash there. In the number 9, I personally probably take the IQ of Apisai Kotosau over Reid Marnie. But then again, the youth of Reid Marnie, the pace of Reid Marnie, you probably might take him. So I guess that's a bit of a wash as well. The back rowers, I would take the Eels. I would. I know it's crazy to say over Viliami Kikau and Liam Martin, but I think Isaiah Papali'i and Sean Lane this year have been so fun to watch. And I would lean with the Eels in regards to the red-hot form that those two guys are showing. Specifically, however, Sean Lane, I don't think that Viliami Kikau has necessarily been at his utmost best this year. Still one of the best back rowers in the game. And Liam Martin, for me, hasn't exactly had a great year. I lean with the Eels, but that could be a wash. I'll still take the Eels, though, in that one. But then, obviously, I do lean with Isaiah Yeo there in the lock. On the benches, though, I definitively look at the Panthers. Mitch Kenny, Scotty Sorensen, Spencer Laniu, and Jamin Salmon, for me, are definitely the collective better bench compared to Nathan Brown, Jake Arthur, Oregon Kafusi, and Niokore. If you think that bench is better, be my guest. That's your perspective. But I don't even think it's really close. I really don't think those benches are close. I think I definitely, clearly look at the Panthers. So, for me, guys, who am I going to tip? I think you guys have known for a long time who I'm going to tip here, because it's pretty obvious the way that I do speak about this game. I do have it as a close game, but I do have a relatively confident winner with that being said. Not all the time does a close game mean that it was a really nail-biting game. It could easily be a nail-biting game. We've seen this come down as a nail-biter game for a couple of years now as well. Parramatta do have the recent record over them, but not the most recent record in regards to the finals. I am going to take the Panthers here. I'm going to take the Panthers here. I think that the Eels will be so desperate and they'll keep it close, and I think they're unfortunately going to be heartbroken. And I don't really want that necessarily. I would love to see the Eels break their hoodoo this year. I'd love to see the Eels be that time where, like a Sharks 2016, where they got the W, well, that was fantastic after 50 years. I don't think Eels winning it would be as large as that one was, but it would be such an amazing moment to see a new fan base and community proud of their team. But I just think this Panthers team is too good, man. I think this Panthers team is too good. I think Nathan Cleary is too much of a leader. Also, he's playing for his Australia right now. I think that he'll get it over Cherry Evans regardless, but he's definitely playing this game to prove that he is the Australian halfback for the Rugby League World Cup in 2.5 weeks' time. Yeah, for me, I just think this Panthers team is going to be too strong, too good. They're going to frustrate the shit out of the Eels. It's going to be one of those games where the Panthers might take an early lead, and if they don't, they go down 12-0 like they did against the Rabbitohs there. We saw them change that game in 3 minutes. They were down 12-0, absolutely dominated for the first 37 minutes, and they were tied 12-12 at half-time. And that was the game over, and that's when they won by a convincing margin. This Panthers team will come back in this game. It's what happens with the Panthers. If they lose this game, it'll be by a short amount, but I could see it well with the Panthers win by a decent amount. I hope not, though. I really hope not. I hope the Eels are up for this challenge. There's the Battle of the West, and it's going to be in front of a sold-out 80,000-seater stadium. Going to be absolutely crazy. So let's get into the chat here, guys. I'm going Panthers by... I'll go 8. I'll go 8. Panthers by 8. And yeah, I think that's close. I think that's close enough. I'll go Panthers by 8 here. I just think they're going to be too good, and unfortunately, the Eels might come up just a little bit short. But all right, guys, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and let's go see what you guys are saying in the chat. I'll go back a little bit because obviously I've been speaking quite a bit now, and there'll be some messages that I haven't seen. Alrighty, so Alex says, all good Sasha, being a Tigers fan, I know how you feel. You are a Muppet. You are a Muppet. Jackie Hadafia says they need to stop Cleary. Yeah, of course. It's going to have to be down to Parramatta stopping Cleary. If they don't stop Cleary, Panthers win. But then again, you know, it just comes down to if they can catch the ball of Cleary, realistically. Like, Cleary can only do what he can do, and he's just another footy player out in the field that, by now, Wonga Blake should have been catching a lot of bombs. He should have been practicing on his ball catching ability, and that's where the balls are going to be going down. Nathan Cleary will force feed the ball up in the air to Wonga Blake. So that's the scary part here for Wonga, is that he's got a lot riding on his shoulders this week. I'd say, realistically, he's got, besides Mitchell Moses, he individually could actually be second in charge in regards to how impactful this game is going to be in regards to the scoreline. Because if he lets that ball bounce and it bounces back towards the Panthers and they score, it's on him. If he knocks the ball on, they get a fresh set right at the 20-metre line, it's on him. There is so much relying on Wonga Blake's individual shotters this week, because I don't think he's going to kick that ball too much to Micah Sivo, and I don't think he's going to kick that ball centre to Clint Gutherson too much, even though Gutho is pretty safe under the high ball at the back. But then again, it is still Cleary's kicks, a little bit different. Jackie Alafia says, I want Dylan Brown to do a right foot step try. That'd be great, but in the same sense, this is the Panthers. You know, the Panthers, they are the best defensive team in the competition. They don't really give up too many tries. They don't really give up too many points. So if the Eels are going to win this game, it's probably going to have to be a 14-12 kind of game, which I've seen them actually win in the past against the Panthers. But if the Panthers are able to... So basically, the Eels all year long, I tell you this every tipping stream, I tell you this every stream in general, the Eels are good for 20 points conceded a game. They average over 20 points a game this season. Their defense is not up to it. But their defense is actually not that bad overall, but they have lapses where they concede tries and they concede a decent amount of tries. You know, you go back to that Titans game in round 1, they conceded like 3 tries in the space of, 5 or 6 minutes going into the first half time, right? And then you've got multiple other games this year where you see the Eels can lead, but they will choke it away very quickly. The Eels are very hot and cold, man. Very, very hot and cold. And you can't be hot and cold against the Panthers. If your defense isn't up to perfection, you're going to lose the game. So it comes down to the Eels' defense rather than the attack for me. But then again, Panthers so good defensively, you know, it also does come down to the Eels' attack. It's a hard one because they're coming up against such a good team, man. Desmond says, pumped up kicks. When's your next album coming out, Max? I don't know what's going on here. No clue why Arthur's on the bench. Yeah, I don't get it. He's not even going to really play. Like, what? The only reason he would play is if Mitchell Moses gets injured. Unless you think Mitchell Moses is going to get injured or he's carrying a knock that you're nervous about. Why have you got Jake Arthur on the bench for me? It just doesn't make any sense. What's the point? Like, what is the point? Because Jake Arthur was coming into no position except for Mitchell Moses' position, or maybe Dylan Brown if he gets injured. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Yeah, it's just not something that I would do personally. But he may be just trying to cover for the fact that obviously if Moses is carrying a niggle into this game, he wants Jake Arthur there as a replacement if there needs to be. Rise Douglas is not hating on him at all, but we need a key forward there, not someone we won't use. Well, I think that if I was to go through your bench, You've got that would be your 14 there. So Nathan Brown's not a 14 realistically. Neither is Oregon Fusi or Marani Niokore. So Jake Arthur for me is the 14, but he only plays one position. Look, realistically, you don't actually have a great deal on the reserves that can be that 14. So I guess it may be the okay decision. But Bryce Cartwright's the only one there that could play in multiple positions, but he's also not good, right? So again, Jake Carr's not good, but at least you do have that cover. I think based on what I can see here, yeah, maybe the Jake Carter selection is okay. But I think Makahesi Makatoa is a little bit unlucky to miss out here, to be completely honest with you as well. And especially considering that Nathan Brown and Brad Arthur don't really get along. I think Nathan Brown's actually leaving next year for, is it Manly? I'm not too sure. He's leaving somewhere. But yeah, look, I think based on what I've just seen there, Jake Arthur could be the one that it probably makes a bit more sense than Bryce Cartwright due to the fact that he always, buddy, just simply always is making mistakes. Jackie Alfis is going to misread? Yeah, you will. Alex Hodgson's a gun. What, someone said Josh Hodgson's a gun? Josh Hodgson can be a gun, but he's also coming off the back of 2 ACLs. So I don't think he comes back from that. That's my issue with Parramatta going forward. I don't think that Josh Hodgson comes back and be's the player that you necessarily need him to be to compete again next year, especially if you lose this game. You see a lot of the time with these teams that make the grand final. Go and have a look at GWS in the AFL for one. Go and look at, you'd even argue Canberra in 2019. Who's another team that you could be looking up towards? I guess rugby league's a little bit different, but when you lose a grand final, it can be motivating for you to go next year, like the Panthers in 2020. But it can also go the opposite direction where you completely capitulate as a club. I think if Panthers win this by a small margin, Eels will still be competitive. If they win this game by a big margin, I really do get nervous for the Eels. Because I'm right now for the Swans. So the Swans are a young team. I like them going forward. But we saw at GWS, they had a good team. They had a young team. And they completely capitulated. So I am nervous for how Parramatta go forward from here, especially considering they're also losing players, getting new players in. And if they lose by a big margin, that's terrifying for their club going forward. Ben McGanny says Madison isn't going to the Dolphins. I thought he was. Oh, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I thought he was. Oh, there must have been news that he was potentially going, and then I've just kind of clicked on with that. Maybe. I thought he was signed with the Dolphins. Jazz 2001 says Ryan Madison was re-signed with the Eels. Well, there you go. I made that mistake. We're getting Jermaine Hopgood, though. Well, there you go. Alex says, maybe back in the 60s, now he's older than Jay. Brighton Robinson says, if the Panthers lose, will the questions of Cleary not getting it done in the clutch come back? Absolutely. I'll be the one leading the charge. You know, you guys know me, man. I will tell you how I feel, right? And I think that Cleary will still be the best player in the game for me. But if they lose this game and they don't get it done, there are question marks about whether they do take him to that World Cup. Because the World Cup final, we've seen Cleary not necessarily get it done at New South Wales level. And if he loses this, he would have led his team to 1 grand final win out of the last 3 grand finals that he's been in. So there will be question marks asked about that. And we see those question marks come up after every big game. There's nothing really here that doesn't say that he's going to have... If he has a bad game, man, I'll tell you right now, there will be major question marks about Nathan Cleary in the big clutch games. I know that he won last year in regards to Origin and also won last year in regards to the NRL. But overall, the questions will definitely be there. The questions will definitely be there. They're still here. They're still here right now. But I just think the Panthers overall are probably the better team. Brighton says, oh mate, they had to get rid of Cartwright. He's not NRL standard. Oh, no, I agree. I'm a Titans fan. I saw him. Jackie Alafia says Niokore is the forward that brings energy to Para. Yeah, Marata Niokore is a great player there. I don't know why some Muppet was spamming before. You're a Muppet. Jay says you need a HIA. He does need a HIA, yeah. Jay, and he's failed his HIA too. Are you an Eels fan then, Ryan says? No, I'm not. You know that. Tilchanga says Kafusi and Niokore are good, but Brown and Arthur are questionable. Yeah, I don't think Brown's questionable for me. I think that he's a really hard ball runner. Yes, he can make mistakes, and yes, he can be a bit bland at times. But I remember when Nathan Brown, I think I had him in my preseason tier rankings, not this year, but last year. I had Nathan Brown as an underrated player because I thought he was doing a fantastic job with the Eels, but just hasn't been able to live up to it last year and this year. Or it could have been, yeah, I think it was the year before that. I didn't put him that highly in this tier maker at the beginning of this year. But yeah, they're definitely questionable in regards to Jake Arthur and Nathan Brown. But I personally would back in Nathan Brown, personally. All right, this is going to skip forward here. Let's see how much I've missed. So let's go back a little bit. That's just some idiot. Brian Roberts says, Squeals need to go full Queensland on these Penrith Muppets. So another thing with this as well that I didn't really mention is that Ashley Klein is the referee in this game. Now, Penrith under Ashley Klein have won like 90% of the games, and Parramatta have won like 60% of the games. That's a big difference in regards to 30%. Am I saying that that means that Ashley Klein's favouring Penrith? No, Penrith are that good that they can win those games without the referee. However, there's a reason why Penrith is set all the time, and it is something that has to be concerning for Eels fans, knowing that the Panthers pretty much win 100% of the time under Ashley Klein, comparatively to the Eels being pretty much 50% of the time, which is worrying. And then you get, Muppet Green Atkins there. I think Klein's actually one of the better referees, even though there is no good referees. But he's one of the better no-good referees. But, yeah, it is worrying for Eels then with regards to those stats. X-Factor says, Jake Arthur won the prelim for him. Sure that he did. Bulldog says, why do you time those girls out and for how long? I didn't time them out. The moderators do that, but probably because they were Muppets. Big Papa says, definition of nepotism. Nepotism says, Jake Arthur for the Clive Churchill medal. Oh, here we go. Ronoro Zorro says, he's laughing at Danil. Bulla Blaze. Big Papa says, Bulla Bulla. What the buzz? Sachin Kelson says, with how 50-50 the Eels are, I could easily see a 30-6 Panthers win. But surely the Eels shot for their biggest game in the last 36 years and make it a 22-24 scoreline. So, most grand finals you do actually see as a relatively convincing win. That's why it's so special when it is close. Last year, it was close, but it wasn't. It was just a bit lacking of substance. Very similar to that Cowboys and Sharks game. Cowboys-Sharks game this year was fantastic in the last 20 onwards, but the first 60 had a lack of substance. That grand final last year kind of lacked substance for the most part as well. And you'd say that for the first 70 minutes of that Broncos-Cowboys game in 2015. However, obviously, the way that it ended made it one of the best grand finals I've ever seen because of the way it ended. Didn't make the whole game amazing, though. The whole game wasn't amazing. But most of the time, look, Panthers vs Storm 2020. That was not close. The scoreline said 26-20. It was 26-0 with 15 minutes to go. Panthers had a chance, but didn't as well. 2019, that was a good grand final. Kind of close. It was actually really close until Roosters scored. That was a good grand final like that. Not the best grand final ever, but good. 2018, no, Roosters won that easy. 2017, one of the worst grand finals I've ever seen. 2016, very close. My best grand final ever that I've watched. 2015, very close. Lacked substance for a large part, but was really good. 2014, convincing Rabbitohs win. 2013, convincing Roosters win. 2012, convincing Storm win. 2011, convincing Manly win. 2010, convincing Dragon win. 2009, decent enough Storm win. They didn't look like losing that game during the game. 2008, very convincing win for Manly, 40-0. 2007 was a convincing win to the Storm. And then 2006 was a relatively close Broncos win over Melbourne. So, look, it's hard to tell, but if stats that go by and histories go by, we're probably waiting for a blowout at this point because the last couple of years have been technically close. And if you want to technically look at the stats for the 2020 Grand Final, it technically was close. So, 2019, 20, and 21 have all been close. It makes me nervous that maybe we could be looking for a blowout game here. Big Papa says Makatoa doesn't bend the line, though. X-Factor says Jake Arthur will listen to the coach. That's the difference. Okay, mate. Rowan Zoro says he's a winger. Has a winger ever won Clive Churchill? I don't think so. That's why I say to the people who are saying Brian To'o, I cannot see that happen. I can see Dylan Edwards. If the Panthers get it, it'll be Isaiah Yeo or Dylan Edwards or Nathan Cleary. Potentially Jerome Luai, but I don't think he has enough in his locker to beat out the other guys I just mentioned. If we're looking at the Eels here, and you could also look at a guy like James Fisher-Harris or William Kikau to get that Clive Churchill, but you're still looking at the halves normally, or the fullback. For the Eels, Clint Gutherson would be a really good underdog bet there. Obviously, Mitchell Moses would be the favourite. Dylan Brown's a shout. Then you go to the forwards. I think Sean Lane is a good shout based on his form right now. And maybe even a Ryan Maddow. Overall, you're not really looking at the back line except for the fullbacks. You're not looking at the wingers or centres normally for a Clive Churchill. Also, guys, don't forget, tomorrow night, we're going to be live streaming the entirety Dally M's. We're going to be streaming the entirety of the Dally M's tomorrow night, putting on the scores throughout the updates and whatnot, and chatting away with you guys when it's on. So definitely set aside tomorrow night for a nice little Dally M night. Maxi Channel says, don't think Para has a chance for the next few seasons after here losing too many insane players. I just think this is their grand final. This is their peak right now. I don't see them peaking after this, so I agree with you. This is the peak for Parramatta. So if they don't win this, I don't know if they can bounce back from it. I don't think they can bounce back from it, no. Port Adelaide 2007, how good was that, Ryan Sarkles? Beers, man, so I like both teams, so whoever wins is fine by me, but Eels need to win this one for their fans. Well, that's the same with me, man. That's the same with me. So I'm going to be at the game this weekend, vlogging. The vlog will come out on Monday for you guys. I'll be at the game, supporting Para, with my mate Entertain House, who is an Eels fan, legitimate Eels fan too. Obviously, there's a lot of bandwagons, so Parramatta. So I'll be amongst all the wagons there. I guess I'll be on the bandwagon for the game. But overall, I don't really give a shit too much who wins, but I want Para to win for the fans and the community that have had so much heartache over the years. And as a Titans fan, I know how it feels to support a team that's not in its best position and for a decent amount of time, like it's been a decent amount of time for the Titans as well. So that's why I connect with them. Their fans, intolerable. Like, they're like, nyeh, nyeh, nyeh. That's literally how they sound. So I am nervous. Well, I'm not even nervous. Like, I couldn't really care less what they say to me because my job here is literally to have a response for you. And I've learnt pretty well over the years of how to respond to Muppets online. But yeah, just because they win the premiership this year doesn't ignore the last, 36 years of pain that we can still insult them with. But I still want those people to be happy and proud of their community, like we saw Penrith last year, like we saw Cronulla in 2016, like we see with the Titans in 2023. Giaki Halafia says, I think Paris will have a chance next year. I disagree, but I would love... I disagree. I just don't back in having that hooker coming off the back of two ACLs. But then again, we also did the same thing here with the Cowboys. Not on the ACL front, injury front, just with the team didn't look good front. Maybe the Eels continue next year. I have my concerns. Just 2001 says, I heard Kickout was dealing with some sort of injury and could be in doubt despite being named to the team. I reckon that's bullshit. If it's true, then wow, that's a big loss. But I reckon that's complete bullshit. We see that with Queensland every year. They say everyone's got COVID or everyone's got... broken heart, broken back, broken head. There's always an injury with Queensland, but they always play. So definitely don't listen too much to that. But it could be true. I'm just kind of going based off what we know what the Queenslanders are like. And I'm a Queenslander. I know what the team is like. And they do it every year. Everyone's got some kind of Queensland sickness. Mevito says to me, when GWS were at the Grand Final back in 2019, it was now or never for them. And seeing how they were never going to win, they have sunken more than the Titanic. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. It's their fall has been wowie. Exo says Cleary really played well in the 2020 Grand Final loss, in my opinion. I disagree. Bright Robinson says they didn't pick Brown. Ooh, that comment's gone. It's gone up here. It's gone up there. They didn't pick Brown all year, but he gets the Grand Final. Yeah, that's what I was saying before. It's really strange. They picked Makahesi Makatoa all season long, but yet he's in the extended reserves as a number 19, which is strange to me. And obviously they picked Tommy Opacek for most of the year as well, and yet they've gone with Penisini and Simonson. Simonson's normally the guy that comes out, and it's normally Opacek who's in there. But I actually probably don't mind Simonson more than Opacek. But in the same sense, it's a bit of a wash for me overall too. Zane Potter says, I'm honestly brave enough to say I reckon Penrith will win by 20 plus. Yeah, you're brave to say it, but I'm not crazily surprised if it happens. That's why I keep saying to you guys, I would not be surprised if this is a blowout grand final. I do believe that Parramatta have it in them to make it close, and I do believe that Parramatta have it in them to win this game. The record suggests it, but the record in big games don't suggest it. And the record in big games for the Panthers, they literally won the grand final last year. They beat this team 3 weeks ago, and they beat the Rabbitohs even though so many people were doubting them, which was crazy to me. I would not be crazy surprised if you're right, Zane. I don't back it in, and it's not because I'm scared to say it. I'm just saying I think it's a confident win for Panthers in the 8 points, but it's still going to be close enough where it's not an embarrassment. Because like I said, if they get beaten 20 plus, that's going to really kill them in the near-time future and for the decent bit future in regards to, I guess, going into a bit of a rebuild after this as well. Never says, Ryan, 2017 was a nightmare for me because both Crows and Cowboys lost the grand finals. I never expected Cowboys to win, but Crows were disappointing. Cowboys were like 8th, then they got pumped. But that was a good run to the grand final, though. But the Crows, yeah, they were shocking. And they are shocking. Dasmate says 2014 was 14-6 until the last 10 minutes, but lucky it was postponed. That wasn't postponed, mate. I actually love that grand final. Rabbitohs definitely won that one. They definitely won that one, Dasmate. I remember seeing it with my eyes. I saw it with my eyes. I was wide awake, son. I was in Fiji, but I was wide awake. I saw it. Rabbitohs win. It was great. It was, for anyone who wasn't a Dogs fan, that was actually a pretty fun grand final to watch. Notice says Jake Arthur for Coaches Award. Lyndall Langan says Eels suck. Fair enough, man. Fair enough. You have your opinion. Ryan's like says, I reckon Will Pansini could get the Clive Churchill, and you're a Muppet. Brighton Robinson says, talk it up, Rhino. Yeah, he's a Muppet. Max's channel says, I reckon Nathan Cleary will get the Winston Churchill. No, Winston Churchill. Thanks, mate. NRL Statistics says, I think either Isaiah Yeo or Api Kotosau get the Clive Churchill medal. Yeah, it's a good shout. I think it was Nathan Cleary who won it last year, if I'm not mistaken. I do really think that Dylan Edwards has a great opportunity to do it. If Mitchell Moses has a good kicking game, and the Panthers still win, then I would probably lean maybe with Dylan Edwards, because he's going to have to put up with a lot of little dinks from Dylan Brown in behind the defense. He's going to have to really be following up for the Micah Sivo kick up in the air with his high frame. And Wonga Blake's got a bit of pace about him as well. I think Dylan Edwards is going to have to do a lot in this game. So I could really see, if Dylan Edwards doesn't put a foot wrong, I could see Dylan Edwards getting this Clive Churchill this year. Which I think is a relative underdog pick, because most people would look at, Yo and Cleary, I personally feel. Which is fair enough, really. But some Muppet said Winston Churchill medal. What's going on here? You had a few to drink tonight, mate? It's a Tuesday night, man. It's a Tuesday night. How much you had to drink tonight to say the Winston Churchill medal? You've got something crazy with you. Dasmate says Panthers playing mind games. Absolutely. Ryan Zarkle says Offerchuck is injured. He may be back, though. He's doing a fitness test. Okay, he probably does come into the team then maybe for Simonson. Sorry, I'm not really sure what your name is. I think maybe Trell Midi. I think so. Have you seen the video of William Kickout singing Glory, Glory, South Sydney? I think any rugby league fan's seen that, man. Obviously, it was a big thing last year when they did take down the Rabbitohs there. I think that was a very disrespectful thing to do to the Rabbitohs, but it's also entertaining. So I don't really have a great deal of a problem with it overall. It's just what happens when you win, If you can talk shit when you win, man, you can talk shit when you win. You can't talk shit when you lose. So, I think that it was fair enough. It was disrespectful to Rabbitohs, but in the same sense, beat them. And then they didn't, literally on the weekend. So that's the issue there. All right, guys, we're going to go for another 14 or so minutes of Grand Final chat, and then we'll be jumping off. Like I said, tomorrow night we'll be doing Dally M's. But we'll go another 15 minutes of chat, and then we'll be jumping off here for the night. But hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you're around here. And we're on our way to 20k. We're nearly there. We're on our way. Brian Robert says, Oppa is a decent defender, could be missed. I like Opacek as a defender, not so much as an attacker though. I'd probably say Simonson's the better attacker. Not that it's a great deal difference. Hayden Gallus says, hello mate. Pokemon Champion says, up the Para L's. It's funny how people always say L's on these streams, like E-L-L-S. It's like they're saying L, like just simply L, which is quite interesting. But it says, Moses cannot kick the ball out in the full 2 times this game. If he does that this game, they lose. It's not okay. But like I said, he had a lot going on apparently off the field with the birth of another child, and also a heap of other things going on. I don't know. It could have been excuses with the other things, but I know he had a birth of a child that it does make sense. It does make sense. And we spoke about this last night in the stream where, if he decided to go away from it, you can sympathise with the family and you can sympathise with him, but in the same sense, this game means so much to people that it'd be short-lived if the Eels lost. You know what I'm saying? People would not sympathise very quickly. So that's the kind of difficult situation that he was in. And he obviously chose to play the game, and they won the game. Snake Game says, always watch these live streams when I'm on break. W Streamer, appreciate Snakey Games. Rono Zorro says, when do they do Dally M? Tomorrow night, man. Like I said, I'll be streaming the whole Dally M's tomorrow night. Should be a good night. It should be a good night tomorrow night. So tune in. Obviously, I believe it's going to be Nico Hines, personally. Due to the fact that he was on a more winning team, and towards the end of the season, I think he would have caught up with Ben Hunt. But Ben Hunt is a really good shout to win it too, because he was leading when it went behind closed doors. Brian Robinson says, if Parra can't put enough pressure on Cleary, Blake's getting bombs shoved down his throat all night. Yeah, exactly right. Don't know about the 7 p.m. Grand Final. 6:30. I think this is kind of when it's always been though, hasn't it? I think it's always been like 6:30 Grand Final. I think that's traditional. I can't remember. It's definitely not been during the day, because that's an AFL thing. And I don't like rugby league as much in the day as I do at night. AFL prefer it in the day than night. But with rugby league, it's definitely more of a night game. So I think 6:30 has always been when it is. I don't understand what the problem with that would be. Max Channel says, when's the NRL Discord happening? What do you mean? We've got a Discord. We've had a Discord for like a year and a half now with the BKRsport, brother. Stanley says, let's go Eels. Isaac Bayard says, I want Parra to win because next year all their good players are going to a different club. Let's relax on that one. Let's settle down on their champion. They're not all going to a different club. There are definitely some going to a different club. I don't know if Dylan Brown's re-signed yet, but overall, obviously, main guys are Isaiah Papali'i and Reid Marnie. but there's not a unbelievable amount who are leaving. There is just enough of a key amount of players that are leaving. And obviously, salary cap squeeze is the thing. When you get good, man, when your players get good, look, the Panthers are starting to feel the crunch of it right now. When you get good, you have to start selling your good players because they're asking for more money, and deservedly so too. Just 1 says Eels need to put more pressure on Cleary's kicks. They didn't in week 1, leading Blake to dropping the ball 3 times, and I think they got 6 or 12 points out of it. Yeah, that's what we were speaking about before. It all comes down to them locking down Cleary, because if Cleary gets those balls up in the air, Wonga Blake is not the guy that I'd be trusting with the eyeballs. Wonga Blake is not a guy that you want those balls going up in the air for. Like I said, I hope to God that the only thing he's training in right now is catching high bombs. Mitchell Moses, his kicks are not like Cleary at all. They need to get, Matty Burton's not going to go and help him out, but if they could have gotten someone from another team to come and help him out with some really high balls, that would have been fantastic. But obviously, he would have been practicing with Mitchell Moses. Then if you can't catch Mitchell Moses balls, you're definitely not catching Cleary's balls. That's for sure. Dasmo says 7:30, 7:50 kickoff normally. I disagree. I think last year was 6:30. I'm pretty certain last year it was 6:30. Who was grand final again last year? Panthers, Rabbitohs. Oh, then again, I was in Fiji, so that would have been even later. I'm pretty certain the grand final's on 6:30, man. For the grand final. If I'm wrong, tell me. But if you can go and Google that, that'd be great, because I'm pretty certain this is the normal time for a grand final. Lord Zachary says, good luck for the Eels. They just got to remember, don't focus on 2009, but good luck for 2022. Oh, I definitely don't think they think about 2009, brother. Rona Zorro says, was it today we find out if Munster re-signs? I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to that, because I believe if Munster was going to re-sign, he would have re-signed months ago. I don't believe he re-signed. Maverick says, I actually prefer the cheer squads in the NRL Grand Final more than the AFL Grand Final. There are really a lot of fans to back in these two teams, and it's beautiful to see. I would agree. I think that the atmosphere at the AFL Grand Final is great, but I think that the NRL Grand Final atmosphere is really underrated. I've been to both. I've been to an AFL Grand Final and I've been to an NRL Grand Final. And I think that the atmosphere of the NRL Grand Final, even in a game that's not exactly close, like who's going to win it for the most part, unless it's a 40-0 blowout. Actually, even a 40-0 blowout, it's still amazing. Like that Geelong Swans game, for me, incredible. But for everyone else, shit game. I think if you're actually at the game and it's a Panthers win 30-8 or something like that, you can sense and feel the emotion of the Penrith fans, for me, in comparison. With AFL, it's a little bit more different, because you can just feel the sense of people didn't really enjoy the game more than what the winning fans felt like. I don't know if that's just my perspective, but I think the NRL Grand Final is really superbly underrated. Not as many people there, by about 20,000, but that's because the stadium doesn't fit more. But obviously, it's a better game to watch on TV, realistically, anyway. But the atmosphere in the NRL Grand Final, even in that 15 or 6, whatever the scoreline was in 2018 when the Roosters beat Storm, was still amazing, even though the game was pretty well won by the Roosters overall. But I guess it's just because of the emotion in the air. Max Challenge says, when are the Titans getting to the grand final next year, year after? I think you're probably talking shit, but overall I'll still respond to it because I'll do what I want. I think that for the Titans, if they're going to make a grand final, I definitely wouldn't necessarily be looking at next year, but hopefully it's a bounce back year. I think that if you're looking at a grand final, you'd still be looking 2-3 years down the track now. Obviously, originally I thought 2023, but that was before this schmozzle year where they kind of changed the direction. The direction was changed really dramatically pre-season, where they went with a completely different outlook to what we were kind of building towards, and then we made a really big capitulation. So hopefully it kind of bounces back. But overall, man, this stream's more about Panthers Eels grand finals. We're not going to talk too much about the Titans, but I definitely think if they're going to do it, it'd be you're still 2-3 years down the track. Namiki says that's cap. Munster saying the Storm. I disagree, but you could be right. I'm not saying that I'm right here. I'm just saying my opinion. Munster, if he was going to re-sign, he would have done it already. He hasn't done it yet. I'm just thinking it's a bit odd for me. So he could still resign, but just the fact that he hasn't yet is what is kind of weird to me. Mickey says Panthers crushing 10 points win. I've gone by 8 points. I don't think it's a crushing win, but I think it's a confident enough win. Lachlan Pilkington says, why are the Panthers versus Eels in grand final? I thought the Titans are in it. Mate, they are. They are. You're just looking at the wrong page right now. You need to start putting some glasses on, mate. Come on, man. Lachlan, you got to start thinking, mate. You got to start thinking, you Schmonko supporter. This is a typical Schmonko supporter. They can't even read. They can't even bloody speak English. Ryan Zagra says, AFL grand finals are usually blowouts now. Last 4 were 81 points, 74 points, 31 points, and 89 points. Very annoying. Yeah, actually. Yeah, they all have been. The last good grand final is probably Collingwood West Coast, maybe. I think Collingwood West Coast was the last good grand final. Alex says, this year, Max's channel, they're versing the Eels. I like it. See, that's a thinker right there. X-Ray says, if my 9-leg multi hits in the grand final, $4,500 donation. Well, you're going to have to put that on the Discord because, like I said, I will not be streaming the game on Sunday. I might go and do a live stream at one point during the game. I might even do a live stream at the end of the game when I'm with the fans. Hopefully the Eels do win. If the Eels win, I'll do a live stream from the area that we're in because we're sitting behind the post. We changed our seats from the try line to behind the post, which is actually good. It's actually cheaper seats, which was pretty cool. And I prefer sitting behind the post with the fans. And obviously Hayden, as an Eels fan, wanted to sit with the Eels fans. So it does make sense. It does make sense there. But yeah, I might do a live stream at the game. Just a bit of a kind of getting around the atmosphere there. Michael Joshua Lewis says, why does it say 6:30 start time? I'm going to take a wild guess here. Don't hate me if I'm wrong. But I think that's because the game starts at 6:30. Like I said, don't shoot the messenger. I think it says 6:30 game time because I think it starts at 6:30. Crazy. I know, crazy. Michael Josh Lewis says, that's right. Ned Mickey says, Roosters got disappointed. Ryan Zugg says, Dylan Brown first try. Wouldn't necessarily be crazily surprised today. If I'm going to go as first try scorer, I will go with... Ooh. Oh, it's a hard one, actually. I don't know why. Usually you can look at a name and just feel it. Maybe I'm kind of getting drawn more to the Eels for first try scorer here. I'm kind of getting... I don't know, I'm really torn here. I'm trying to figure out who I would go. First try scorer. Let's go with... Now, you know what? I'm going to go Moses Leota. I'm going to go Moses Leota in the front row. I'm going to say a big barge-in run. I think it's going to be a big barge run by Moses Leota. That's a really wonky one, but I like it. I'm going to go first try scorer, Moses Leota. But it's obviously just a guess. It's so hard to pick a first try scorer, especially if you're not going into the wingers or whatnot. Let me get someone here with an even crazier suggestion of Josh Ryan saying Junior Paulo. Jazz 2-1 says, hopefully this game is like last year, Eels vs Panthers semi-finals match. This game could have gone either way. That was a great game. That was a really energy-draining game, that one. Wowee. Nimeki says, who do you think is going to have the closing try? Oh, geez, that's random. Closing try? Brian Toe? Like, I don't know. Like, closing try is not something I've ever heard someone ask me before. Sachin Gell says, I'll go Edwards first try scorer. Maybe. I don't really like him too much for a try in this game, but I definitely think he'll be very crucial and pivotal in this game. Mepita says, I'll go Daniil for... Okay, mate. Alex says, crash play first try. Moses Leota, mate. Do the old Andrew Fafita. You know, we've got 3 minutes to go here, guys. We'll jump off. 3 minutes to go. Disallowed drop ball. Oh, this is Josh Ryan's Junior Paulo's best friend. I remember you. You're the guy who really, really hates Junior Paulo. You're the guy who can't go a string with that saying Junior Paulo's going to knock the ball on. Isaac, you weren't here when he scored a try the other week. Isaac Biad says, Blazer, you played NRL, what position would you play? I'd probably be a front rower, yeah. I'd probably, back rower, maybe. Front or back rower. Nemeki said, when I was a young bloke, I played front row, yeah. And Nemeki says, who do you think gets Clive Churchill medal? I've gone outsider, and I've gone Dylan Edwards. Because I think if Mitchell Moses is on, which he has to be on if they're competitive, I think Dylan Edwards is going to have to do a lot of defensive work in regards to grabbing those kicks, which he's safe under him. And Mitchell Moses' kicks aren't that much of a, torpy, spiral, bomb kind of deal. They're very manageable kicks to take, but they also put you in awkward positions. I think Dylan Edwards is going to have to do a lot on that factor, and also defensively. And I just think that he's going to have to really have a big game here this weekend. That says, I actually have a feeling Paulo would probably knock the ball on a few times in the grand final. Now you're encouraging Josh Ryan. All right, we'll go one more comment here. We'll go one more comment here, and then we will jump off. And 52% of people have Parramatta Eels to win the grand final. Interesting. It's an interesting choice there. Alex says, I think Sexy Sexton gets the Clive Churchill medal. Yeah, get around Sexy, mate. Even though he supported, I always used to message him throughout the finals. I kept saying, you going for Geelong this week? And he went for literally everyone who wasn't Geelong. I think he went for Collingwood. He went for the Lions. And then he went for the Swans in the grand final. The biggest mistake that he ever did make in his life. Biggie Shack says, the talking heads have questioned the opening Penrith window, but I feel like they should be looking at South Sydney. The talking heads have questioned the opening Penrith window, but I feel like they should be looking at South Sydney. I don't really understand that comment. I could be being dumb, but I just don't understand that comment. X-Ray says, anyone who didn't vote the Titans to win the grand finals are Muppet. They are. It's very stupid. It's very silly. Very, very silly. Very, very silly. All right, we'll end off on this one. Nemeki says, any sin bins in this match? I don't think so. Then again, we did see Nathan Cleary get sent off and also gone for, 5 weeks suspension from a tackle. I don't think so. I don't think these teams are necessarily the type of team. Maybe a Viliami kick-out, if anybody. Maybe a Viliami kick-out, but I don't see a great deal of players probably getting sent off or sin-binned here. Viliami kick-out from the Panthers is probably most likely, but I don't think it happens. And if I was going to say someone from the Eels, maybe a Madison. I really don't know. Nathan Brown's a good shout off the bench, actually. Nathan Brown is a good shout off the bench. So maybe one max, and it's probably Nathan Brown, to be completely honest. So yeah, if Ryan Sarkis goes Nathan Brown for sure. Yeah, I didn't even see your comment yet, and I was already talking about him. So yeah, that'd be my opinion there. But anyway, guys, we're going to jump off for now. Like I said, tomorrow night, we are going to be jumping on for the Dally M's, the NRL Dally M's live stream, where we find out who was the best player this year. It should be a good night, lads. We're going to be going through my picks and talking to you guys in the chat the entire time and updating what's happening in the Dally M's night. So yeah, it should be good there, guys. But obviously, like I said, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new around here. We're super duper close now to 20,000. So let's keep on cracking. Let's keep on moving and grooving. And like I said, on Sunday, I will be at the game. I will not be streaming, but I will probably do a stream from the Parramatta section at the end of the game, potentially. We'll see how we go. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Catch you later. Soup!